The current pandemic presents an opportunity for businesses that can either afford to reposition themselves in new markets, give their businesses a facelift, or simply go back to basics to essentially leapfrog the competition. So up next, we bring you Professor Mohammed Yunus, founder of Gramin Bank, in conversation with TK Arun, consulting editor, The Economic Times, as they together shed more light on how COVID is acting as a catalyst for businesses to reset.
Welcome to this ET's conference, Professor Yunus.
Thank you.
We are extremely happy that you have consented to take part in this event. This is a very important event for us, where we are trying to discuss how the pandemic has forced a rethink at some very fundamental level on our development strategies, our policies, what government and society should do together. Collaborative, caring approach informing policy in countries, at least in our part of the world.
Thank you for inviting me for this discussion. What I tried to draw attention to right from the beginning of Corona crisis, the pandemic, we have shown a very different kind of relationship with each other in a global way, what is rather than what is expected. This was a time when we are facing a common enemy, which is coronavirus. It's a global common enemy. So we should be getting together in a combined way. We should have a command force system where we can address this issue together. But we have seen right from the beginning, each country is kind of concentrated on themselves and trying to even hurt the neighboring countries or other countries to protect their quote unquote their own interests. We have seen it a lot. And then we saw when it comes to having a common structure to fight the common enemy, whatever structure we had, we undermined it rather than strengthen it. WHO is an example. This was the global platform we had to address the common enemy of coronavirus. But we attacked them. Some countries attacked them very vehemently and then cut off the funds from them. And then later on started investigating them. And then now United States, the country which is doing that, announced that they will withdraw from WHO, undermining the whole common front that we had. And then you see the vaccine scenario. The vaccine is something which will help us to get back to our life again, reclaim the planet which is gone to the virus. There also we see very selfish way of dealing with it. The rich country like USA is buying up all the vaccines, making sure every company which produces it, sell it to them. They are paying them in advance. Europe is paying them in advance. UK already signed the agreement for their part of the vaccine. So what happens to the rest of the world? Again, very selfish way. So instead of multilateralism, we switched to the tribalism. We became a tribe in each case of things. So to go back to a common platform, it will be difficult from a situation like that. But this is the only way out to fight a common enemy. We should be combining our forces, making sure that we help each other, making sure the vaccines is available for every country at the same time, with the rich country, poor country, with the rich people, poor people. It shouldn't be a queue where the richest people in the front, and as you go, and all the poor people in the back. You never know when this vaccine will come to them. So we appeal to the world, making corona vaccine as a global common good, so that there is no commercial ownership on the vaccine, so that anybody can produce it anywhere they want. That nobody has to wait for the big companies to decide at what price, at what time, at what level supply they will make in which part of the world. So we have to free from that. That's not happening. All the discussion going on is still, there was a congressional hearing yesterday, again talking about how much each company is protecting the vaccines for the United States. So I would say we are in a very wrong direction. So it will take a lot of effort to turn it around, to make it a common interest rather than a selfish interest.
Yeah. On this, can I ask you one thing?
Go ahead.
Now, under the WTO's TRIPS agreement, there is a provision that every national government is entitled to issue a compulsory license in case of a national emergency. So isn't it feasible that if a company in the UK or America or France has come out with a vaccine, a company in India or Bangladesh could issue a compulsory license and ask a domestic producer to make this vaccine and make it available cheap?
Well, that's a legal issue. I cannot answer that question, whether this is a valid international way of doing that. This is you. Once you do that, what consequences you face. Some countries are very good at imposing sanction right away. Whether it's valid or not valid, it's something you talk later on. So this, I don't know, in the international law, and even if you want to do that, do you have all the information, the recipe of the vaccine and the inputs that you need into the vaccine, all those things, kind of thing, whether you can invoke that law that you're referring to in the WTO.
Yeah. It can be invoked because this is one of the few things that India and other countries have fought for and gained at the WTO, that we will define what a national emergency is. No third country can tell you what a national emergency is. And once you issue a compulsory license, the company on which that obligation is placed has to transfer the know-how and the details to a domestic manufacturing company. So this is one way of actually suspending or making inoperational the intellectual property right associated with a vaccine or an effective drug. I think that is one thing that we have. But apart from that, even if at a global level, international level, we use these kind of mechanisms to ensure access, are we in a position where we can say we will distribute this vaccine within the country in a fair, rational manner, prioritizing the target recipients in a way that will maximize the lives saved? Do we have any such institutions in place to ensure this?
So far, I was complaining, saying that I see no preparations. Whatever you suggested, a preparatory step, how to make it happen. But I have not heard anything in the newspaper or anything, government preparing how to distribute these vaccines in a way the people, the remotest place, people at the poorest level of life can be reached safely, and vulnerable people get it quickly, and those kinds of things. Whether they will get it free, whether they will get it nominal payment, or everybody will get it free. Whatever the policy is, it should be discussed, decided. And we shouldn't have to wait until the vaccine is in our hand. Now we decide how to do it. That will be too late and too stupid to do such a thing. This is the right time, no matter if the vaccine is available, if and when, this is how we are going to do it. So that should be very clear. What will be the pricing policy? Which are the institutions which will be handling that? Is it the government will distribute it? Is it the private sector distribute it? It will be a combined thing to distribute it, or it will be some other things to do that. What role each level of government will play, what role the business will play, what role the social organizations will play. These have to be decided ahead of time so that all the little details can be worked out before the situation arises.
Now, the pandemic is not just about health, it's also about the economy. Many people are seeing erosion of their lives or their livelihoods because of the lockdown much more than it normally does, to offer livelihood support, to offer relief, and also to boost demand to revive economies that have stalled. Now, in this, there are certain organizations which work at the grassroots level, such as microfinance institutions, which can play a very important and vital role in getting life back on stream for many enterprises at the grassroots level, which are on the verge of dying for lack of liquidity or lack of business. What do you think can be done in this situation?
Well, it's a very important issue that I will put it in two ways. One is immediate need, what needs to be done, and what corona pandemic has done in the context of long-term issues. One is a short-term issue and the long-term issue. In the short-term issue, I go back to my experience with Gramin Bank, Bangladesh, the lending money to poor people, particularly poor women. And I recollect our experiences. Bangladesh is a disaster-prone country. You always have disaster. Right now, we are having pandemic as well as flood at the same time. So it's a combined effect of the both flood and the pandemic. But normally, pandemic is not there, flood is there. Some floods in 3, 4, 5 years is a terrible flood. Normal flood disrupts your life, but you can stay home. Abnormal flood, when flood water goes over your rooftop, then it's an abnormal flood that you lost everything. But the other floods is no good either. So you lose everything in a flood-like situation. Some floods are local, some floods are national. Everything goes. Today, what is happening is a milder version, but the national version. It's not localized and so on. So what I'm saying that in Gramin Bank, we made sure every flood comes, we go back to the people to support them. It's not about chasing money from them, get the money out of them. It's not that way. I try to remind people that Gramin Bank is about people, not about money. We want to protect them, make them back to their feet again. And once we handle the flood, and then we discuss to get prepared for the next flood, because it's coming. Still have everything. But in flood, your animals goes, your house goes, your possessions goes, your business goes, your savings goes, everything goes. And we do it again because the microfinance support is behind there. So they are not worried because the whole institution is behind you. And we have a very elaborate system how we do that year after year. It's not suddenly it happens. It's a regular thing. And you have the cyclones. Again, a very regular cyclone. It's localized, but the same repetition of this story. You lose everything, your homes and everything else. So what I'm saying is doable. Finance is an extremely important thing in terms of crisis like this. And it still is a very disorganized sector. In a country like India, there's a lot of microcredit program, but it's still not a very concrete policy issues. I keep saying that there are many MFI, microfinance institutions in India, who are left with lending money to the poor people, but they're not allowed to take savings, deposits. So they have to go to the banks or financial organizations to borrow from them. So they borrow money to lend money to poor people. I said, this is an absurd situation after all these years of work, that you are walking only with one leg. You don't have two legs. So you're always uncertain. You need money, but you go to somebody else to seek the money. In Gramin Bank, we don't have to seek from anybody. We do it all the time by ourselves. We know how much money we'll be needing in a crisis time and so on. We have a disaster fund built into our system so that we can use the disaster fund right away. I mean, not wait for anybody's decision. All the decision-making power inside and all the financial power is inside. So I said, why don't we give these MFIs a simple banking license to do the deposit taken? Then they become complete. They can design their thing, they can plan their thing. And in order to escape from the loan sharking tendency of MFIs, some MFIs, not all of them, there is a strong tendency of some MFIs to become into part of the loan sharking. We are fighting the loan shark, but MFIs become the loan shark. That's the dangerous part. So I'm saying you issue the license, which will be social business microfinance banking license. Social business means you don't want to make money out of this. It's a zero dividend company that we designed. And it works very well because it's very transparent. Nobody is doing the business to make money for themselves. It is simply to solve the problem. That's how the Gramin Bank was created. It was a social business. So this is an idea. So we need to prepare the entire financial system. And this is the long-term issue that I'm saying. That has not been done. So Corona pandemic has revealed all the weaknesses in our system. All the migrant workers going home 1,000 miles and all the stories that we see over here. This is unnecessary. This is just simply we ignored all those people hiding inside of the belly of the big cities. We know them, they exist, but we never noticed them. Suddenly, pandemic has revealed them. They became visible. Then we started noticing and we shuddered, we thought, what happened? Why did they go to 1,000 miles away? I said, why anybody should have to go to 1,000 miles away for their survival livelihood? This is it's impossible. This is unbelievable. They have to go 1,000 miles for their survival livelihood. Why can't we create an economy? They can have their basic survival economy right there where they're born. They don't have to go anywhere. Why cities have to be the one providing jobs? I said, why can't we build the rural areas, all the rural areas, as independent economy, not dependent on the urban economy? They send the young people to the city to have a livelihood and send money home. This is old-fashioned way of doing things. Today, infrastructure is everywhere. You have the communication, you have the transportation, you have the electricity. Why do we have to go to the city? I said, why don't we create a dedicated rural institutions, like banking institutions dedicated to the rural, financial institution dedicated to the rural. They don't have any business with the city. Then you emerge with the independent economy.
But
Today you're
Dr.
extending.
Yunus,
Yeah.
but the history of human progress shows that urbanization
Yeah.
makes for greater productivity and greater prosperity. Anywhere in
For whom?
history, any time in history, the cities have been the lifeblood, the source blood, the engines of growth and new knowledge, research, everything. Now, unless people move from village to town, how can urbanization happen? So the problem really is not that people move from village to town, but under what conditions they move, isn't it? If they could move in a way that is sustainable, where they can make their homes in the cities and be productively employed there, then there wouldn't be such a big issue, right? It is just that they are making a bare subsistence in the city where they migrate to and work, and they are forced to return back home when it comes to survival, when their source of livelihood in the city dries up or turns off. So it is basically the fact that not that migration per se, what these migrants are employed in and how sustainable those earnings are, which makes them vulnerable. The people who go from, say, rural Bihar or rural Odisha as tech workers in Bangalore, they are also migrants, but they don't face this kind of vulnerability. They also move from village to town, and they are contributing to progress, to high standards of living, export earnings for this country. They are also migrants. The question really is not migration per se, but what kind of occupations these migrants are forced to enter once they reach the city, isn't it?
No, I don't agree with that. I said it's not because of city is the one where you provide all the opportunities and all the growth facilities and so on. This I'm saying was true years back when we didn't have the infrastructure, because infrastructure was always in the city. All the communications, all the transportations, all the hubs, and all the financial center and so on. Today, that is absolutely irrelevant because you can be anywhere with anything, with your communication, everything, with your transportations, with your other facilities. You can locate anything. For example, if you have call centers, now the call centers are right inside the city in a crowded building and so on. Why can't we have the call center right here in the village? You have the facility, you can have a wide space and a clean air and make it happen. This is no different from the city to the village. You have all the communication facilities and so on. All the tech industry, they can be located in the rural areas. There's no reason why it should be sitting in the city center and spend hours on the traffic and inhale all the bad air, ruin your health. Why don't we go outside there? So I'm saying today's situation has changed. Corona epidemic has shown us the weaknesses, an old-fashioned way of thinking, old-fashioned way of institution building. We have to redesign the institution and redesign the conceptual framework that in village can be, rural area can be independent economy by itself. They don't have to export labor to the city to do that. And I'm not talking about the people who have a higher income in the city. Let them go wherever they want. I said, this is a livelihood for survival. That's what I'm talking about. For livelihood for survival, why should anybody have to leave the place where they are born? There's plenty of opportunities to make it happen right there. Things can be located anywhere, almost everywhere. So this is the point we are missing. Then we have to rethink. And the finance is also the same way. You don't have to come to the city for the finance, like the old-fashioned way that everything is there. Today, it can be delivered wherever you are. That's a system that technology has helped us develop. So we have to rethink so that people can find their livelihood right there for living, the survival livelihood, not other livelihood. Other livelihood, they can go anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And the world's world can come to the village because the communication is there. As I was mentioning, the tech industry and other industries, there is no reason why there should be cramped places in the city, wasting time in the communications and transportations and getting to the office and getting out of the office and those kind of things. So this is it's the thinking process. That's about it. To me, it's just about the conceptual way.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. We ask that everyone keep visiting the Resource Center for downloading various assets of immense value and the Help Center in the lobby for any queries that they may have related to the event. Also keep an eye on the leaderboard to continuously discover your overall score.